You are listening to Charting Cryptos, Commodities, and Currencies. Let's jump into these charts. We, of course, cover Bitcoin every day on the daily review and once a week on the weekly review and forecast. Today, we're looking at the 24-hour-a-day Bitcoin chart. It's a little bit different, and it's also, when I say that, we cover the Bitcoin ETF. XBTF is what we cover. This is actually Bitcoin itself. I guess this comes from Bitstamp. Again, one of the crypto exchanges that charts it. Nice thing about the ETF is, of course, it's on the stock exchange. It's an ETF, so it's traded much like a stock. Liquid, you can buy and sell it quite easily, but it's only during market hours, 9 to 4 p.m., the days the market is open. So what do we see different here? Not a whole lot different on this chart as compared to XBTF. In fact, I'll show you the chart that we track every day. Very similar looking, isn't it? It is. So going back to the 24-hour-a-day Bitcoin chart, it is down a little bit for the day. Very flat trend line. Things just sort of sliding sideways. Talked about this on the show today where things bump up, bump up, bump up again. Every time it bumps up higher and then pulls back since the beginning of the year, starting somewhere around the opening of right at $17,000 to the latest high around $31,000. So doubled, but of course is half of what it was back when it struck $60,000. So that's Bitcoin for you. Nothing to see right now. We're hoping it's going to pull back more than it is now, give us some kind of trend line, and then take off again so we can track it. What about Ethereum? Flat too. Same thing, ditto on that. Now this is interesting. What's happening here with the Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund? This tracks the top 10 cryptocurrencies. It's weighted as per market share. So of course, the big dog here is Bitcoin, followed way down the line by Ethereum, and then the 8 other top cryptocurrencies. What we see here is Doji. Lots of indecision. Which way is it going to go? Couldn't tell you. We can see as we look at the 195-minute chart as it's just slowly but surely tracked down. Again, when Bitcoin takes off again, either up or down, that is when we'll see this start to change, dragging the other cryptocurrencies with it. So one thing I learned from these charts is Bitcoin being the big dog, everything else doesn't move totally with Bitcoin, but Bitcoin sure has a lot to do with people being excited and getting into cryptos or not. Now, let's move out of cryptocurrencies into commodities, and interesting things to see here. This is the U.S. gas fund. We've seen where it has been tracking up for quite a while. And here over this week, things have slowed down quite a bit. We can see if we track up through, the week before, we can see that we are still tracking. We haven't turned red here. We did our last peak last week, the latest highest high. This week, not reaching that smaller candle, up a little bit for the day, though. And really, over the last few weeks, the only thing where there's been a total bright spot has been in energy. Now, look here at what's happening with oil. We see that oil, the United States Oil Fund, has blown off all of its steam, and we've got a doji here sitting right there on the weekly line. In fact, if we updated the line to connect the latest 3, we've opened below it. Looks similar, doesn't it, to what happened on the NASDAQ 100 for those of you who follow the show every day. In fact, why don't I show it to you? We saw similar here when the chart was drawn and we had, I don't want to have to redraw my line here, but you can tell where line was going up here. NASDAQ started and ended the week with a doji below it. That is very similar to what we see going on right now with oil. And of course, what could that proceed to? A rollover and a down move. Look at the 2-day here blasting through it. And on the half day, you can see where, again, no reds for quite a long time, many weeks, and then rolling over, blowing through our weekly trend line. So that may be where energy is going to end up going. Silver, of course, had this 3-week stint to just die on the vine. We saw that average volume here, where again could not sustain that prior up move. Doji the next week, and of course going into the second week of decent down moves. Wheat tried to get up, down. We haven't hit the lows yet that we saw back at the end of May, but again, telling you something's going on in the world market. People aren't buying a lot of wheat. Why? Can they not afford it? Don't know, but that's possible. Things could be really bad everywhere. What do we see going on with soybeans? Same kind of thing. Remember, a lot of animals and people eat soybeans. Ran up starting in mid-June, and that ended in end of July, and for these last 3 weeks, moving down. Copper, using a lot of business stuff. Last 2 weeks, it's been going down. Now, guys, what's been happening the last, going into the third week now? Well, we saw the stock market stop going up and roll over. Look at corn here, up 2 weeks and then down. The low, we sort of hit the same point back here in mid-May and mid-July. So again, corn now down at those levels. And let's look at the natural gas fund. Remember how we heard everybody's going to freeze to death this last winter because natural gas was going to be so expensive? Well, that didn't happen, did it? What we saw is natural gas, peaked somewhere around August. We made it through the winter just fine as stocks moved down. And of course, they've gone from that high of $34.50 down to close the day at $7. Well, that's good news on the energy front. Now, let's move on to our last thing to look at, and that is world currencies. I can give you one view of all of them. Down. We look at the euro. Down. We saw where things tried to move up through mid-July, rolled over for the last, going on the 4th week down. 4th week down on the British pound sterling and the Swiss franc down. We can look at the Japanese yen down. Canadian dollar down. Australian dollar down. Again, everything rocketing over, including our stock market, gold. And again, we just watch as everything rolls. So be aware. Information is power. And the more you understand these charts, the more you'll understand about what's going on in your world, and you can make smart decisions in your life. Because that's what it's all about. And the reason I cover these commodities for you every week is so you can see what's going on with real things. Real things like gasoline, like soybeans, like corn, like sugarcane, whatever it might be. And the reason I didn't cover sugarcane today because it's just sliding sideways. My friends, thanks so much for being with us. We always love to hear from you. Appreciate what we do. Why don't you become a Patreon supporter and help underwrite some of the cost of this channel? Because the things you support tend to stay around. We'd really appreciate it. First thing you'll get, among early access to Charting Crypto's Commodities and Currencies, you will also get 3-wave trades and our 20 weekly vertical crossovers each and every week. And the first thing you receive when you sign up is our 3-part series, Options Made Simple, the Charting Wealth Way. Support us, my friends. Follow the link in the notes. God bless.